Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. Idaho is a big state and it covers a lot of territory. Idaho Matters wants to take you to every corner of the Gem State by visiting all 44 counties. And we need your help to do that. Email us your story ideas at idahomatters@boisestate.edu for our new series we're calling Idaho 44. And be sure to join us each weekday at noon and 8 on Idaho Matters and travel the state with us. You're listening to Idaho Matters from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Next week, Boise's climate action team will be hitting the streets to try and figure out which parts of the city are the hottest. As climate change continues to drive up temperatures, more states across the U.S. are creating heat maps to help identify areas that are vulnerable to extreme heat. However, doing this is a no small effort, which is why Boise is looking for volunteers to help in this endeavor. So joining us now to talk more about this is Alex Brooks, the Climate Action and Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Boise. Alex, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So for those folks who aren't familiar, can you explain a little bit more about what a heat map is?
Yeah, a heat map is a tool that we use to determine where are areas in our community that see the most negative impacts from increased heat. So the map identifies areas that we call urban heat islands. These are areas in the city that are warmer due to infrastructure like buildings, dark pavement, and have fewer trees and vegetation.
What will the map tell us about the city?
The map's going to help local governments all over the valley and our community partners plan for the future as we start to see more and more days over 100 each summer. The map will identify areas that are especially at risk when it comes to extreme heat. And from there, we can start to identify potential solutions to mitigate and adapt to heat.
And how exactly do you collect this data?
That's the part that takes a lot of work. The data will be collected by volunteers. They're each given a heat sensor that attaches to a car window, and the volunteers each drive a predetermined route. And this will be on Tuesday. We'll be having our volunteer group out. And as they're driving, the sensor is passively collecting heat data. So they'll drive the same route 3 times in one day to see where we're seeing that urban heat island effect the most. We want to see which areas remain hot all day and which areas are able to cool down in the evening.
Is there a certain part of the city that you'll be focusing on?
We're actually looking Treasure Valley wide, so we'll be collecting data in Nampa, Kuna, Star, Meridian, Eagle, Garden City, and Boise. A similar study was conducted in 2019, and we want to replicate that study so that we can start to identify changes in the community, whether that's areas that are experiencing more heat from things like urbanization or positive changes like that areas where we're seeing less heat from efforts like tree planting.
So, Alex, why are projects like this so important?
In the Treasure Valley, increased heat is our climate change, and so our local governments really need to understand this better through collection of data so that we can start taking actions to keep our community members healthy and informed so that they are ready for changes that they might see in the future. Collecting this data is going to help us make really impactful decisions and identify potential solutions to extreme heat.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about the impact that heat can have on vulnerable areas and vulnerable people in our population?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Heat does not impact us all equally. Those experiencing homelessness, elderly populations, children, pregnant women, they can all be more susceptible to heat-related illness. Even certain medications can make you more vulnerable to negative health effects on a hot day. So we're taking action so that our community can remain safe and healthy.
So, with that, do you have a plan? Does the city have a plan to help those areas that are more vulnerable when it comes to heat?
So this is kind of our first step in heat planning. A lot of other cities we're seeing are creating heat action plans, and we really want our heat action plan to be data driven. So Once we've collected this data and assessed the situation, we will be moving more into a heat action plan process. We recognize that Boiseans value health and access to the outdoors and community, and we want to ensure that Boise remains a climate resilient city. So we're taking that action now so that our community members can preserve that life that we all value.
And how does this project help the city meet their climate action goals that they've set in place?
Yeah, along with our carbon neutral goals, we also have set climate resilient goals. So we want to see our community remain healthy and happy and livable into the future. And we're already seeing the effects of increased heat, increased wildfires, and so the city is taking action in order to remain a strong community and ready to face those challenges that are coming in the future.
Okay, I want to talk about volunteers next because you need volunteers to help with this heat mapping. So, first off, let's talk about how many volunteers do you need?
So total, this effort is going to take up to 40 volunteers because we're doing it Treasure Valley wide. We're driving 20 different routes of about 20 square miles each. But we already have a great group of volunteers signed up, but we are looking for a few more. We need drivers and we need navigators on a few routes. And just a reminder that this is happening on Tuesday, August 12th, and we will need volunteers to drive the same route 3 times in one day. So if anyone is interested in participating or just learning more, they can send me an email, and my email address is climateaction@cityofboise.org.
Okay, so you said this will be happening August 12th. So this really is just a 1 day commitment for volunteers.
Yes, we are just getting a picture in time of what a hot day in the Treasure Valley looks like. And then after that, we'll take the results, we'll look at the 2019 study, and we'll be releasing more information to the public. But yes, just a 1 day volunteer commitment.
So you said you'll be releasing that data at some point. What do you hope to do with the data once you have it?
Yeah, like I said, we'll be identifying those areas that we think are the most vulnerable, the areas that show up red on our heat map that are experiencing the hottest temperatures. We're hoping to see some impacts of the tree planting efforts that have been going on around the valley, which would create cooler areas. But with how much the valley has changed in the last 5 years, we're expecting that there's more development, more of these hot areas. And so from that, we'll be creating our heat action plan and developing, at least for the city of Boise, suggestions and programs and solutions that could potentially be implemented to start mitigating some of the increased heat that we are seeing.
So, Alex, before I let you go again, how do volunteers sign up? How do they get involved?
They can send me an email at climateaction@cityofboise.org.
All right. I want to thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about this, Alex. We've been speaking with Alex Brooks, the Climate and Action Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Boise. We've been discussing how Boise is working to reduce heat in urban areas. They are taking on a project on August 12th where they're going to do heat mapping. And as Alex said, they still do need volunteers. So if you are interested, get in touch with Alex over at the City of Boise. It's a 1 day commitment. And that'll do it for this episode of Idaho Matters. Thanks so much for listening. And just a reminder, you can find all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts.